A second Canadian has been detained in China on accusations of harming national security. As tension continues between the two countries, it was confirmed on Thursday that Michael Spavor, a businessman, had been detained in addition to former diplomat Michael Kovrig, candidate to Chinese protests after it arrested an executive at telecoms giant Huawei at the request of the US. Meng Wanzhou has been bailed, but may face extradition for fraud. She denies violating sanctions on Iran through Huawei, its business dealings. China has threatened unspecified consequences if she is not released. So high-profile is the case that as President Donald Trump said he could intervene if it helped to avoid a further decline in relations between the US and China, which are locked in a trade war. However, Mr. Trump is on officials' front on the idea, with as Assistant Attorney General John Demers remarking, "What we do at the Justice Department is law enforcement. We do not do trade." Michael Spavor is a businessman based in Dandong, near the Chinese border with North Korea. He has deep ties to the North Korean government. Ex-diplomat Michael Kovrig currently works for a think tank, the International Crisis Group (ICG), which has said it is concerned for his health and safety. In December, Meng Wanzhou arrested in Canadian city of Vancouver at the request of the US as part of an inquiry into alleged sanctions-busting by her company Huawei. December, Canadian former diplomat Michael Kovrig arrested in Beijing on suspicion of engaging in activities that harm China's state security. December, Meng Wanzhou released on bail but still faces the prospect of extradition to the US. 12 December, China confirms the detention of businessman Michael Spavor for activities that endanger China's national security, saying the investigation began on 12 December. He is being held officially on suspicion of engaging in activities that harm China's state security. However, a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman, Kang, suggested another reason, saying the ICG had not been registered as a non-governmental organization ongoing China and therefore it was unlawful for its staff to work there. Checks by Reuters news agency did not turn up a registration for ICG on government databases for those or social enterprises. Canadian Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland has said Mr. Kovrig's case was raised directly with Chinese officials. Canadian Foreign Ministry spokesman Guillaume Birob confirmed that Mr. Spavor had contacted them earlier in the week because he was being asked questions by Chinese authorities. One of his last Facebook posts on Sunday said he was about to travel to Seoul in South Korea, but he did not arrive on Monday as planned. Back in Seoul, "I will be in Seoul from Monday, the 10th. A few days, a new consulting work, and a few." End of Facebook post by Michael. As with the previous arrest, Mr. Spavor is under investigation on suspicion of engaging in activities that endanger China's national security. Mr. Spavor runs an organization called Prop to Cultural Exchange, which organizes business, culture, and tourism trips to North Korea. He is a regular visitor to North Korea and regularly comments in the media on Korean issues. He is particularly well known for helping to arrange the visit by former NBA star Dennis Rodman to North Korea in 2013. Rodman is a personal friend of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The former Canadian resident was detained in Vancouver, where she has family and property connections. She was granted bail of $10.6 on Tuesday but could still be extradited to the US. The US has been investigating Huawei, one of the world's largest smartphone makers, since 2016, believing that it used a subsidiary, Skycom, to bring us manufacturing equipment and millions of dollars in transactions to Iran in violation of sanctions. The Supreme Court of British Columbia was told Ms Meng, Huawei's chief financial officer, had used the Skype between 2009 and 2014. She had allegedly tricked us banks into clearing transactions for Huawei which were in reality for Skype. The banks thus became victim institutions of fraud. Ms Meng personally represented to those banks that Skype and Huawei were separate, when in fact they were not separate, said Crown Attorney John Carsey. Skype was Huawei. Lawyers for Ms Meng told the court Huawei had already separated itself from Skype. Ms Meng faces up to 13 years in prison in the US if found guilty of the charges. The Canadian court heard after the detention of Mr. Kovrig. Canada said there was no explicit indication of any link to the Meng case, but China experts doubted that it was just a coincidence. By St. Jacques, Canada's former ambassador to China, told Canadian broadcaster CBC, "In China there are no coincidences. If they want to send you a message, they will send you a message." Speaking on condition of anonymity, a Western diplomat in China told Reuters news agency, "This is a political kidnapping." Asked if the detention of the two Canadians was in response to Ms Meng's arrest, China's foreign ministry spokesman described it as an operation taken by China's relevant national security authorities in accordance with the laws. Lu Kang said Ms Meng's arrest was wrong practice, adding, "I can point out that, since the Canadian government took the wrong action at the request of the US and took Meng Wanzhou into custody, many Chinese are wondering if their trips to Canada are safe." A crash involving a high-speed train at a station in the Turkish capital Ankara has killed at least 9 people and injured 47. Turkey's transport minister has said images from the scene showed emergency services working to rescue people from badly damaged carriages. Reports quoting local officials said the high-speed train had collided with another train, then an overpass. The accident occurred at about
6:30
local time,
3:30
GMT. The crash happened at the Marsandes railway station, around
8000米
5 miles from Ankara's main station. At a news conference, Ankara Governor Vasip Sekin said the train was traveling from Ankara to the southern city of Kang when it collided with a locomotive inspecting tracks at the station. 3 train drivers were among 9 people killed in the crash, according to Turkish Transport Minister Kehit Turan. Turkey's state-funded Anadolu agency reports that 206 passengers were on board the train. 3 of the injured are said to be in a serious condition. A large number of emergency workers arrived at the scene shortly after the collision, which occurred in snowy conditions. Search and rescue efforts are still underway. The Ankara State Prosecutor's Office says it has launched an official investigation into the cause of the crash. In a tweet, in Turkish, the Union of Chambers of Turkish Engineers and Architects quoted its chairman Yunus Yener as saying that signaling problems had been flagged on the line for some time. It added, "The accident is murder." In July,
24
people were killed in Turkey when a train traveling from the northwestern town of Kapıkule and Rome to Istanbul derailed. Were you in the area at the time of the crash? Email your story to haveyoursafe@bbc.co.uk. Please include a contact number if you are willing to speak to a BBC journalist. You can also contact us in the following ways. North and South Korean soldiers have made several friendly crossings into each other's territory for the first time since the countries were divided. The men were checking the dismantling of guard posts in the demilitarized zone DMZ along the border as part of the two sides' recent rapprochement. Footage showed the soldiers shaking hands at the border before crossing. The Korean War in the 1950s left the peninsula divided, and no formal peace treaty has ever been signed. As part of the talks between the divided peninsula, the South, its President Moon Jae-in, and the North, its Kim Jong-un, agreed to remove some of the guard posts on the heavily fortified border. The two leaders held a historic meeting in April, which led to talk between North Korea and the US. Since November, both North and South have blown up or dismantled 10 of their border posts. On Wednesday, South Korean inspectors visited each of the guard posts on the north side, while North Korean inspectors later inspected the same process in the south. This marks the first time since the division that the soldiers of the North and South